All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the 3C Brain Dump, as I'm calling it. This is David Hamilton. Welcome to everybody live. Welcome to anyone watching the replay. There will be a replay of this as well. This is a new format for me, so we're doing the video live streaming with me here, talking in the conference room at my new office, which I'll speak about in terms of social interactions and stuff coming on. So excited to do this for you guys. I want to do it on a whim and have it be more impromptu and a little more loose format. This isn't going to be as polished as some of my other presentations, and that's intentional. I want to be more authentic and real in that sense. Not that it's not authentic and real otherwise, but have it be a little more interactive, kind of lower key like this, a little more conversational. So we are talking about all the general topics of confidence, connecting with people. You see me over here looking at my notes, my Android pad over here. Let me take this off because I don't need this. That was just for a little sound check. So if you can just say hi in the chat, make sure it works. There's a bunch of little icons that you should see on the side. If you don't see chat, then you should click on, there should be a bunch of little little icons over here. So if you don't see chat on your right side, you have to activate that. That's how it works with this webinars on air system. There's a Q&A thing that I haven't decided if we'll run Q&A through that or if we'll run it through the chat. This is my first time, again, doing the system, so it'll be an experiment. And yeah, we're going to, that's kind of the rundown how that stuff works in those panels there. Those are the main things. And I'll direct you there as I need you to throughout this this online workshop. So, and I'm going to be talking about something that I'm opening up again. So, hey Nishant, there you are. Thanks, buddy. Also, there might be a little bit of a delay. This does stream through like a Google Hangout backend, so sometimes you might see me respond in a delayed way to things, maybe in the chat. Good to see you, Nishant. Good to see you here, and see some other people joining that I recognize. So that's great. So, this is about getting inside my brain. I want to talk in a looser format, even though I have some points, some stories to tell, some important things to talk about with you guys. But I want to keep it as much as possible the brain dump format, because I thought it would be cool, fun, and interesting. It's the first time I've done this way. So let's just dive right in, shall we? The first thing is, as I talked about in the points for this online workshop here, why I believe that connection can trump confidence. Confidence has been always a fascination for me. Being a formerly really shy guy, having social anxiety rule my world, preventing me from doing a lot of things that I wanted to do. And, the more I work with this stuff, not only improve it for myself in various areas of my life, but work with people on it and read about it and see other people talk about it, the more I sometimes feel that no one really has a solid or clear definition of what confidence is. I have my definition, so that's what I speak from, what I know, because confidence is one of those things that you know it when you see it, and yet sometimes it's hard to describe, or sometimes it's definitely hard to tell somebody how to be confident when they're not feeling confident, right? If we could all just be confident, then we would. If we could all just do X, Y, Z, we would do that, right? So the process of it is definitely a mind process, a consciousness process, I find, an awareness process, and a practice process, right? Upgrading our awareness. Where are our limits in terms of our confidence, of not only but what's driving our lack of belief in ourselves, or our lack of confidence, or shyness, or anxiety, whatever, right? And then what are we doing to not only see that, but practice new ways of thinking, new ways of awareness too, because if you're not aware of it, you can't really see it or change it, right? But I want to talk specifically too about what this connection thing can mean, because I've actually found that while I've been fascinated with confidence, connection is actually more important to me. It's always been more important to me. And I'm even thinking about writing a book on connection, or a series of books, who knows? But the reason being is that relationships are built on connection. Nobody that I know of wants to, is friends with somebody just because they're confident, right? Or if they are, that's kind of a superficial reason. It's because there's a deeper reason that they've connected to this person. I think when we admire people that are confident, we say, oh, okay, well, so-and-so is confident, but you can have confident people that people don't particularly like or connect with, let's say, right? So let me take a sip of water here. So to me, confidence, and let's call it a connected confidence, happens when, and I've said this before, when we are most relaxed in ourselves, right? When we are not really even thinking about ourselves, when we're not thinking, hey, we don't have thoughts directed to ourselves. I'm this, I'm that, what should I do? We're really present with somebody. So that's the other part, is presence. Now, funny thing is, when we're present, we're really connected to ourselves, okay? And I don't know if you've ever noticed, because if you take a look in your life and think about people that you really connected to, what was that thing that has you feel connected to them? Is it something you admire? Is it something they maybe shared with you in a way that made them feel more human? What is it? Hey, what's going on, Brian? Good to see you there, buddy. To my newest insights. I'm looking forward to your insights too. I want to hear your insights. Honestly, I'm sharing my insights, which I did say, but your insights are just as important. So, or more important for you, really. So, I'd be interested to hear in the chat. And unfortunately, if you're in the replay, I don't think you can see it, but at least you'll get it. I'll read some of the comments. If you take a look at somebody all throughout your life that you felt really connected to, what was it that made you feel really connected to them? Because, why I'm going to say this, I got a story of how this played out in my life here in a minute or two. So type in the chat, if you think back, what has somebody made you feel connected? What was that thing they said, they did? What was it about them that was really inspiring to you? Okay, just type that in the chat, and we'll do a little interaction here. So the first thing is self-connection, right? It's not, I don't think it's particularly easy, I haven't found, for me to connect with people when we're super disconnected from ourselves, when we're super in our head. And what I mean by ourselves is we have our whole mind body, we're connected to it. I'm not saying that people can't connect to people by not being present. I'm not saying that's not possible, but I think it's rare. When someone's really has their focus and attention on someone else, like when we're present, we don't have our attention ourselves. We're just in the moment, right? We're just this person that we're actually focused on. If you notice, when you're really connected, it's hard to tell the difference between you and them in terms of a feeling, right? That's what connection is. And look, it's not even people that are really good at connecting, and I'm pretty damn good at connecting with people. I'll tell some stories about this place that I'm at and how I've connected with people in the last week and a half, a lot of connections very quickly. There's this sense of being, it's almost like we're saying and thinking the same thing. And that's when, if you ever have a connection with somebody and you feel like when they're talking to you, that you could have said that and they feel the same way. That's when you're in like a hyper connection. It's awesome. And that's where those, if you meet somebody the first time and you just like, you already like feel you've known them for a long time. And there's a way to cultivate this, I think, so that you can be more like that, so you can widen that, so you can connect with more people and not have it be relying on a particular person's personality or whatever, right? There is a way to expand this skill set. And so, but again, I really am a firm believer, if we're not totally, or I don't want to say totally, if we're not above the line in being connected to ourselves and being self-connected or being more present, it's really hard to connect with others, right? And you guys know that if you're struggling with shyness, social anxiety, because you're in your head, you're worried about what to say, what to do. There's just like all this thought attack happening, right? We got some comments coming through. Great. Awesome. So on this connection thing, Nishant says being seen made me feel connected, probably empathy. Absolutely. Huge one is empathy. Empathy is huge. And listening, we'll talk about listening and the importance of it too. And especially that you don't have to talk a lot in order to connect with people. But you do have to share. Nishant, so thanks for that, Nishant. It's awesome. Jerry says frankness, how frank somebody is, directness, it sounds like is what I'm hearing, Jerry. I value that too. I value being direct, but direct with compassion too. I don't prefer bull in a china shop directness, although I would probably prefer that over somebody who's a total, shady person that is real slippery. I think there's an art to being frank and direct as well in a compassionate way, which is part of my job as a coach. So maybe that's why I revere it. I've had to work on that a lot. And sometimes I had a client today that didn't show up like they said they would. They literally didn't show up for the meeting. It was an in-person one, and I had to give them some tough love. But I don't beat up on people. I say, look, I'm telling you things that other people won't tell you. That's why you pay me, right? Because people won't, and that's why we're working on this stuff, right? People aren't obligated to go all the way to tell you, hey, something's off with you, or hey, unless they happen to be somebody who's really okay with being that direct and frank. So Jonathan also, Jonathan, you're saying understanding of or empathy with other person's experiences, view of the world. Yeah, empathy, it's huge. And I think vulnerability can be a part of that too. Like in the empathy, I don't know with Nishant and Jonathan, if in that being empathetic, if they said, yeah, me too, and shared a story, and you don't have to, but I know for me, that could be like, oh my God, you're human too, when somebody does that, right? If I'm feeling insecure about something, have some insecure thinking going on, we can often get the sense of other people have it all together and are perfect, and we're all human, right? Hey, what's up, William? Cool. William's here. He says, best friend for 14 years, was super shy back then. I had known him for 4 months before I could open up to him at that time. However, when he simply opened up to me and took an interest, never asked things like, what took you so long? Awesome. So he opened up. That's the vulnerability part, is what I'm hearing, William, or Bill. Sorry, it's you, Bill, right? There's that vulnerability thing. And look, vulnerability is this thing where, it can be taken too far, I think. It really can be taken too far. At least in my world with a lot of coaches, it can be almost like this contest, and we don't want to do that. And I don't think any of you guys are going to do that. But sharing, might as well just call it sharing. It feels really good to relate and connect on that level. And so why I say it's more important than confidence, connection is more important than confidence, these things like empathy and vulnerability, is because you can go straight in there. Like confidence can have people admire you from afar, but they may not feel connected to you. They actually may feel intimidated by you, depending on their line of thinking, or depending on what kind of confidence we're talking about here, right? Yep, it's you, Bill. Nishan is saying it's difficult to share a dark secret to someone because of fear of what the other person don't empathize. Yeah, absolutely. And so we can be selective about who we share with and what we share. But what I'm saying is, and I'm not saying you have to share your deep, dark secrets to build connection at all here. I don't want you to hear me saying that. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with sharing it, but to be able to share even something about your day, or when somebody says, hey, I've had a really tough day, like, oh man, me too. Like, I had a tough day the other week. Like, yeah, tell me what happened. Right. And just to take the time and stop and ask somebody, especially when you first meet them, I mean, that can be a pretty amazing thing. And look, I don't do that necessarily. I'm not always doing that with people. I'm asking people what's going on, how's their day and stuff like that. But there's a possibility of building a deeper connection by, and look, it's like a lot of people aren't going to share that. We're not conditioned to share that things are bad. We want to like make it all look good and all together and all that kind of shit, right? Like even today, I walked out of this conference room earlier. I was working on something and I knew I was just feeling all off in my vibe and tired. And I walked up to some people I knew and I could tell my vibe was off. And I was like, well, why didn't I just say that? I'm just feeling, and it's something that I've actually challenged myself to do is if I'm feeling off or whatever, just to declare it to people that I know and not in a negative way. I'm not talking about being a victim here, but when I work with clients, when I work with people, a lot of times what we come to find is, yes, we're working on changing the thinking and being more positive. But once the emotional cascade is already hit and the emotions are running in your system, one of the best moves we can make is just to acknowledge and say, okay, I'm angry now. I'm feeling angry. It's just what I'm feeling, and get present with it. Now, it doesn't mean to let it limit you and make an identity out of it, that I'm an angry person and this means that. No, none of that. We don't want to add any meaning to it. We just want to identify and acknowledge it, right? So, and this takes time and practice, and this takes, shifts along the way. So it's interesting. This is really cool. I'm enjoying this format because your guys' interaction, we're able to take it different ways. It's not even in my notes here, right? This is just more interactive and live like that. It's really cool. And so, I wanted to see something Brian had said. Brian mentioned, suppose whenever somebody connects with, or at least attempts to connect with an area experience, that I'm generally connected to myself. Right. Absolutely. And it's not a topical thing as much. Like if somebody likes acting and somebody else likes acting, then this is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about something, I mean, it could be, but we don't want to think of things so much in terms of interest, but in terms of emotional connection as human beings when we talk about connection. I've met people that they've like been a musician and they've been XYZ, and we had all these things in common, personality, like in terms of interests, and we did not connect energetically. We did not connect in a vibe, like just did not. And on paper, with all these interests, it would seem like, oh, so I don't know if you ever had people say, oh, you and so-and-so should meet. You guys are both into music, right? And when people connect to you like that and they don't listen for the quality kind of person and the kind of more energetic characteristics, I might say, those people aren't very good connectors. It's when somebody has a certain feel to them that they connect people well. And so that's what I feel for when I want to connect with somebody. I care much less about what they do. If they're a lawyer or a doctor or a coach, I care about their energetic quality, if that makes sense. How they, not necessarily express themselves, but kind of how they feel and how connected I feel to them. And that happens over time. It doesn't always happen right away. And sometimes it happens immediately. So let me bring this around. Let me tell a story, okay, about one of my friends, another David, and I have many friends named David, and too many friends named David. And I was at this entrepreneurs club the first time I was there, and I walked in this room, and it just had a different vibe to it than other networking meetings I had gone to when I used to do a lot of networking here in Denver, Colorado. And I got done with the meeting, and I was just blown away by the guy who was the president running the meeting. His charisma, his warmth, the way he led the group in what I would call a powerful yet quieter energy. It was powerful, but he wasn't like overbearing. He actually was a little quieter about it, I felt like. And as soon as that meeting ended, I went straight up to him. I was so inspired by how he handled it. And I just said, hey man, that was really great. I really loved like how you ran this meeting. You had this cool style, man. I just loved it. And I'd love to connect with you more, man. You just seem like an awesome guy. And he was like, whoa. He was like, thanks, man. And then we had a beer later that week, and then we started a friendship, and we ran a happy hour together for entrepreneurs, and we even were roommates about a year later down the line. But what he said to me later was, man, I was impressed with how confidently you came up to me and just told me how you felt, sorry. And I was like, wow. But see, I wasn't going up there going, okay, I got to be confident and like trying to feel confident. I just went up and expressed myself, right? And I was inspired, and the whole group, it was really, and look, not everybody's going to necessarily react like him. And see, I don't want you to get the idea that, okay, this is a technique in some way to do this that is going to work every time. He could have been like, okay, dude, that's a little weird. He could have. I mean, I doubt it given how warm he was and how friendly he was to everybody. But not that it gets a result, but that the possibility of a connection comes when you share yourself, share what you're impressed, share what you like, right? Share what you're inspired by, share what you're passionate about. And not only about what you're passionate about, but about a particular person, what you like about them, what you notice about them, what characteristic, right? So, let's take the example of beautiful women a lot of times, right? They always talk about, and I totally agree, don't compliment a woman on her looks, especially a beautiful woman. Why? Because she gets that all the time. And there's nothing unique about that necessarily. I mean, if you talk about maybe she has a nice dress or something she put some work into, but if she's naturally beautiful, she didn't put any work into that. Not only that, she hears it all the time, but listening and sensing into the quality of that woman, of something that is unique about her in her personality or in a characteristic. And it takes practice to do this. You got to really listen. You got to pay attention. You can't be mesmerized by your beauty and let that, stun you, right? Or stop you. She's going to go, wow. She's going to notice that, what I noticed about you, and maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like you really overcome a lot of things in your life. If you hear that kind of tone in her voice or story she told, whatever, I'm just making something up. She's going to go, wow, how often will somebody hear that? But you got to listen for that, right? That can build a connection. And you see what's happening is I'm sharing something that I'm noticing through listening and offering it back as a gift to somebody, basically. And of course, you want it to be kind of positive. You want it to be a positive thing, right? You don't want it to be negative. I noticed that you're really, really super negative about everything. I mean, you can try it. It's probably not going to work. If somebody's super negative, you probably don't want to be hanging around them anyway, necessarily, unless you're like, seems like, I don't know, something going on. Seems like you're in a bad mood, and, I can tell that you're a good-hearted person. You don't have to act like this. That's possible. Probably not more. That's probably a very rare thing to say, right? Be a very rare thing to say. I probably wouldn't say that thing in most circumstances. I just move on if I didn't know somebody well, right? So that's why, to me, connection trumps confidence. And it's still important to work on our confidence, our relaxation, our presence, which comes from self-connection, right? Let me just take a look at my notes over here. You see me gandering over here. And the one thing I want to say is, I made a note here. I really want to hit the point that You do not want to get into a situation where you learn how to be social and connect with people and yet feel lonely and disconnected from yourself and your life. That happens, right? People that are very social and people that can know a lot of people can feel very empty and hollow inside because they don't have real connections, because they haven't shared on a more human, vulnerable kind of level, empathetic level, right? And probably they haven't been empathetic to other people. And so, because we get a reflection back of our own world if we haven't done that with others. So I mean, I gotta say, I've come a long way, man. I used to be not such a nice person. So it's important to work on your empathy, your own empathy, right? How empathetic you are with others, with yourself, self-empathy, we can call it really self-compassion, which we'll get into a little bit too. But, Brian he said, so perhaps a topical connection shouldn't be much of a focus, or is it more of a starting point? Yeah, I mean, it's just to have conversation going, but for connection, if you want a deeper connection, and look, you don't want to force it, right? You can also try to force this stuff and go, so tell me something really deep about you. Like that would just be potentially awkward, right? To try to force it. Let's get in there. Let's get deep together. Like that's a superficial way to get deep, if that makes sense. So yeah, so that's what I have to say about the importance of connection. Okay. Let's talk about what I call the key ingredient to eternal self-confidence. And I promised a method to do that as well. I'm going to point you to a method, really, because it's out there. And really there's two things to it as occurs to me now, but there's one primary one. Having a good self-image, having a good picture of yourself is always something to work on in our story and our beliefs, all that kind of stuff. As my clients know, I work with them heavily on that. But it's like I've said before, it is the self-love and self-compassion piece, because everyone is seeking happiness and contentment and love, fulfillment outside of themselves. When that feeling, we can only ever feel it within ourselves. So it's already there, and we're deluded and we're tricked into thinking, well, it's going to be out. Like even when you get the career and the women and the friends, you can still totally hate yourself, right? It exists. There are people out there that live those lives miserably. So you got to work on, and I think it takes more than self-acceptance. If you want to call it self-acceptance, go ahead. But the self-love piece is incredibly powerful. It's powerful for me. I continue to work on it. There seem to be more and more depths to it. And it makes life so much richer, and it makes so many of these quote unquote problems that we have dissolve. Now, it's kind of like, well, how does that relate to confidence? Well, think about it. I mean, have you ever seen somebody that's really loving? And I mean self-loving, not a needy loving person who's like, I need relationship and connection, but somebody who really is okay with who they are. I've noticed they tend to be the most relaxed and confident in themselves people, and they don't try to be good at everything. I'm a victim of trying to be good at everything, trying to achieve everything, wanting to be good at everything. I'm recovering that kind of person in that sense. And this is the master key to that eternal self-confidence, because why do you even need confidence if you love yourself? Why do you even have to worry about it? Because confidence is not, it's such a dodgy thing to try to, we know when we, like I've said before, we know that when we see the expression of it, but we don't know how to access it so easily by going directly to confident. Okay, be confident. And yes, we can work on confident and positive thinking. All that's good. But the self-love piece that I've found adds a depth and a warmth and a kind of everything is okay, but even beyond acceptance and everything. And everything is okay is a nice mantra to have. Everything is okay, right? I love myself. In that book, Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It by Kamal Ravikant. Everyone should get that book. It's like $2 or $3 on Amazon, on Kindle. Get that book. Go get it right now. Read it. There are 2 meditations in there as well to work on. And if you want to do the totally free method, go look up the loving kindness meditation on YouTube. There are millions of versions of it. Loving kindness meditation. In particular, you want to work on the one that focuses towards you, towards yourself, towards inward. Okay, that is an important one to work with. It's also in my formerly the Dissolve Social Anxiety Program, Overcoming Shyness and Social Anxiety, OSASA, it's the pay what you will thing now from De Leon that I wanted to offer up so anybody across the world could get it at a pay what you will from $10 to $40, whatever you deem worthy or can afford. It's in there as well. I have a version with my sexy voice doing it, but you can look it up for free, right? Use that meditation every day. Use the positive thinking to tell yourself you love yourself. Yeah, as cheesy and as weird as you might think it is, I don't give a rat's ass, okay? Because this stuff works. And if you don't believe it won't work, then it definitely won't work. So you got to give it a shot. There's a lot of power in it. And there's a reason why most songs written are love songs. There's a reason why people are always searching for love and don't know where to find it. There's a reason why so much of spiritual traditions focus on love, the ones that are worth their weight in salt. We're all seeking it. And so why not just go straight to the source? Because you're also going to stand out as a person that people are going to sense it. You're going to feel it through your vibe, through your being, through your essence in that sense, right? I think it's super. If we're talking about a real relaxed, natural confidence, because we're all naturally confident underneath, right? Before we got conditioned, before all this stuff, we didn't have any thoughts of ourselves. Before we learned language, before we learned all this stuff, right? So that's the method I recommend, is work with that loving kindness meditation. And there's lots of different ways, right? But that would be the one to go check out, and do that every day, 5-10 minutes. And really, I mean, I work on it all the time for myself throughout the day. If I'm feeling low or feeling bad or anything, I play with all kinds of stuff, but I play with that one a lot lately. And it gets me some amazing, amazing results in relaxation, so that when I go into any situation, I'm more relaxed and more confident than ever, right? So, I think I've experienced this at a crowded bar, when I started to put pressure on myself that I had to go talk to people. Like, what are you doing? Get going. And then I can go into this, just enjoying my moment, enjoying myself, loving my life, and not loving my life because of what I have externally, but because I know this trick, as it were, and that everybody can have this trick at their disposal. Because you can love yourself anytime, anywhere that you want. And no, I'm not talking about masturbation. You got to watch where you do that, because you might get thrown in jail. Okay. Cool. So that's what I have to say on the eternal self-confidence piece. Work on the self-love. Don't work on the confidence so much. If you want to work on those kind of thoughts, go ahead, no confidence. But the self-love is the key here. So I mentioned I'd talk about connecting with people in groups. How many people, I get emails, or people even come to me to work with me and say, you know, I'm good one-on-one, but when I get into a group, I lose it. I freeze out. I don't know what to do, know what to say. And guys, this is a mentality thing. I don't think of groups as groups. I see people, individuals. Sometimes, and it's not true, I do see a group if it's from afar, whatever, but that group is made of people, one by one, just like you're one by one person here on this, in this online workshop, right? Everybody has an identity. Everybody has a life. Everybody has a story. Everybody has something to relate to. Okay. So you've got to do everything you can to see, okay, who am I curious about talking to? Who intrigues me? And strike up the conversation with that person. It doesn't matter who. You don't have to start it with a group leader or do any of that kind of stuff. If you end up doing it, great. But you want to chunk it down. And there are lots of nuances to this. There are all kinds of things about group dynamics that I don't really have time to go into. But you kind of don't have to worry about it when you work on building connection again, one person at a time, one person at a time. And you'll find you'll start to meet the group as you connect with one person at a time. I sort of find myself wanting to talk about right now having other people start conversations with you by being open and relaxed. Because conversations often start with eye contact and nonverbal things before a word has been spoken, right? So let's look, I feel like I've been talking a little too much. Let's go a little interaction going on. What so far here is resonating with you? What questions do you have for me about, we talked about the self-love piece, and we're talking about groups here a little bit. We'll say some more about groups as it occurs to me here, but I want to get a little interaction, have some questions in the chat for you. I like this chat format because I was wondering if I should chat Q&A, but it's working really well. So, and then I see a question from Nishant, is being assertive overrated? I think that's from a little while ago, but send some more thoughts in here about these things as well. Just type them in the chat there and I'll interact with you. We're just doing Q&A as we go, it looks like here. So this is great. We won't have a separate Q&A section necessarily. So is being assertive overrated? Well, what do you mean by that? I don't quite understand. I mean, yes, it could be, or no, it may not be. It depends on what you mean by that, Nishant. I mean, it can be a very useful thing to focus, for somebody to focus on being, if they don't speak up enough. If you really have a hard time, when you want to say something and not saying it, then it's probably good to focus on being more assertive. But you got to relax the mind. You got to relax yourself, right? Otherwise you would just say it. It's still all going back to the mind in that sense. How to increase presence, kind of, which increases connection. Yeah, I mean, we got to get the thinking down too. Too much thinking, too much thought, too much head, not enough connection to body, right? And so doing the self-love stuff can absolutely help. Any kind of meditation, any kind of mindfulness throughout the day, all helps with that, right? And letting go of the thought as much as possible. So, you know, how much of your day do you even realize and remember that you have an entire body that supports your head, right? Do you feel into your body? What I tend to find is when we breathe and feel into our body, we get much more present. But if we're always going around and around in our head, all our energy is caught up here, then we're going to be self-disconnected and not present. So we got to work on that stuff. You know, I'm going to talk about, you know, in connecting with groups here, how this week I came to this new co-working space. It's really cool. It's this co-working space. It's for socially conscious based businesses. A lot of them are for-profit, which is good, which I like. And they had a lot of happy hours, and they have one on Thursday. There's a CEO thing, and I'm like, I got invited to a book club tonight. And this is what starts to happen when you make these connections. You start getting invited to things, And you got to be selective because you got to get things done, or you got other things going on in your life. It's a quality problem. It's a good quality problem to have. Okay. And so, I lost my train of thought. I'm seeing the group out there breaking up. And so, take a sip of water. Take a breath, get present, get reconnected. When you're connecting with people, again, it's the one-by-one thing. And what tends to happen is the energy opens up as you vibe with that person. It becomes attractive to other people, right? If they see by the nature that you're socially interacting and talking to somebody that you're open and you're friendly. And so that happens as a side effect, right? And for me, like, I like to find places where people I see as like a central hub where people might be passing through, is always a good thing to do, I think. That's why in the simple example of going to a bar, if you stand by the bar where people come to order drinks, it's a trafficked area, you can start conversations with people. Here at this co-working space, there's a central kitchen area, okay? And it's where people might stop for a little bit and you can quickly introduce yourself or meet somebody. So there's a central hub area that I've noticed here. And the other place, there's an open room, but it doesn't have that hub kind of feel to it necessarily. It doesn't mean you can't go up and introduce yourself to people and all that, but if it's more natural in the flow and where people aren't as busy, say in this instance of a working space. And so what happens is over time, I see these people, I introduce myself, I see them again. I love the idea that once you've started a conversation, it's easier to start the second time and the third time. So you don't have to talk a lot. You don't have to feel like you need to stay in conversation necessarily either when you first meet somebody. And you may, because you might get curious. They might get curious about you and you continue talking, but you don't have to. You can say hi again. That connection's already been established. There's been an exchange. There's been an exchange of energy, of conversation, okay? Jerry says, favorites from the notes so far. Compliment them on something they put some work into. Don't think of groups as groups. Think of the individual people. Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad that you picked that up, Jerry. And now go out and try it and you know, apply it. See what happens. Try the mindset out. Work with that. Brian says, I have a similar question. When you find yourself in a social situation starting to put that pressure on yourself to socialize and the head starts working overtime, how exactly do you kind of get back into a more present state? Well, that requires you doing it in your entire life, Brian. You can't just do it then because it's almost too late. Yeah, breathe, connect to your body, but you have to start doing this as a practice. How present are you when you're making your eggs in the morning or cereal? Okay. Are you thinking? I'll bet you are. I know that's what happens for me. And it happens everywhere. So we have to pay attention everywhere so that we're going to be set up for when we get into the more difficult situations, which for you guys is in social and shyness and anxiety and all that. You've got to train. It's like the athlete. If the athlete, you know, okay, you know, first day, pole vault, go pole vault. And you got to train other things besides pole vault. You got to lift weights. You got to run, right? You don't just pole vault. There's other things to train. And so people always want quick fixes. But you see, your whole thinking system has set you up to be nervous even before you got there, right? That's what happens. So if you're not working on your mind and your presence and your breathing and your mindfulness and all that kind of stuff, when you wake up in the morning, let's say, and throughout your day, it's going to be tougher. Now, I'm not saying you can't in those situations, but your whole thought system is configured to unconsciously, it's already set up that way, right? Your world is a projected thing. All of our worlds are projected through our mind thought system in that way. So, one thing is to be present with it and acknowledge it. Of course, like I said before, yeah, you need to acknowledge that you're in your head. Okay, I'm feeling anxiety, and it's okay. You don't want to judge yourself for it. And start feeling back into your body. But again, only doing it and waiting for the situation, Brian, it's not enough. It's not enough. Okay? Brian says he loves the individual people in groups concept as well. Cool. So, and by the way, this thing lasts an hour. I'm not going over an hour because I need to get going on the road and finish up here and do all kinds of stuff for the week. And so if there's any other questions on the group stuff, you can throw them out, but I'm going to move on to the part 4 here, which is being socially cool with attractive women. and I really do mean just that. Because we can't, and you see, this is something that goes well beyond social anxiety, shyness. Men are taught to fawn, we're taught to fawn over beautiful women. It's in the advertising, it's everywhere, these messages, right? Because they realize that sex controls a lot of things, especially for men. The advertisers know scarcity and lack and all these things. I get affected by it too. So we have to treat the attractive women like we treat anybody else. And I know we don't always want to hear that, and I don't even want to hear, or my mind doesn't want to hear that sometimes. And you got to understand that for attractive women, it can be uncomfortable, especially really attractive women. It can be very uncomfortable to be them. And they can feel like a freak because they're always getting hit on a particular way or treated a certain way or looked at a certain way. So the more we treat them like a regular person, the more you interact with her attractive woman like she's a regular person, the more she gets to have an experience that may be kind of unique to her. And, there are stories of really super beautiful women that nobody talks to because they're so afraid. Imagine that. You might as well be in a very superficial way, the Elephant Man. Like that old movie, The Elephant Man, where this guy had really bad deformities for a really beautiful woman. She could, So the more you can see through, and and I also don't want to instill the thinking that all beautiful, like there's this thinking that all beautiful women are stuck up, and it's just not true. Some can be, but unattractive women can be stuck up too, So again, we want to see the person underneath, and we want to interact with the attractive woman, the one you're as normal as, hey, what's going on? Because think about it, if you're in a relationship with a woman, are you gonna, wake up in the morning when you guys wake up in the same bed and go and freak out and be like, ugh. You're gonna be like, good morning, hey, what's going on, right? Like very normal. And so the more that we make it feel like this from the get-go, that we've already known them, it's the same as being social. The more we're relaxed and regular, and what did I say? Yeah, the more that we're cool in that sense. And all I mean by cool is not be like, hey, I'm cool. It's like you're just calm and cool in that sense. We need to work on that aspect too, right? I think it's important to work on the attractive women aspect as a separate thing, included with working on the mindset of being social and confidence and all these kinds of things. Nishant is asking about, can one be a bit shy, vulnerable, and still connect to a woman with compassion rather than be a heroic performer to prove oneself worthy, which is really unmotivating way to connect with women? Yeah, I'm pretty unmotivated by that too. Yeah, you can be. And at the same time, yeah, absolutely. And work towards being just you, being relaxed in yourself, right? It still kicks up for me sometimes. It absolutely still kicks up for me sometimes, right? But, you know, and because women are so more conditioned to pick up on emotional signals and from across the room and vibe, they can feel it across the room when you're nervous. They may not feel directly that you're nervous, but they're really emotionally attuned. They may not think that, but they might even actively think that, but they'll feel it. They'll consciously go, what's going on, right? So we want to work on, you know, again, it's the mindset thing, and there's practice. It's like, yeah, I don't recommend going out and trying to only talk to beautiful women just to talk to beautiful women in a pickup sense. Not my thing. I used to do that kind of stuff, but just not my thing. But many women won't like me being imperfect rather than a hero, right? Being authentic has a price, I guess. Well, there's a lot of ways to look at this, or different ways to look at this, Nishant. You've got this heroic performer thing, which is a story. I can hear it. And it's probably from the movies. And actually, I've talked to women that say when they can't connect to a man, they don't like it. So, but you also have to see that the authenticity piece, yes, I wouldn't, there can be a price to authenticity, as you say, but what's the price to not being authentic? Right? And in a way, as I've worked with clients before and said things like, how do you know your shy self isn't the inauthentic self? Just because you feel it doesn't mean it's more authentic, because it comes from a line of thinking and a belief system that really isn't authentic because you can't be yourself, right? And I'm not saying that you shouldn't go up and not try to be that way if you want to go talk to a woman, because she's going to know if you're trying to fake it and you're feeling shy, it's going to feel off, right? So why not just admit it, is kind of what you're saying. And I agree. Why not just do that? While working towards, why in the hell would we be nervous about this human being who eats, sleeps, shits, just like we do? She's got a pretty shell, but we don't even know what kind of person she is, right? She could be a wonderful person. She could be a horrible person. You don't know. So, I want to try this out here. I just want to mention that I'm offering up this month five complimentary confidence breakthrough sessions. On the side, now it's by application, of course, as usual. I can't take everybody. It's not for everybody. You get a pick in my scheduler. So on the side you go, and there's an offer button. It's called the offer button, I think. And it's like view offers, and it'll take you to the button there. But also, if you're watching it, replay viewers can look, apply for it too. You go to socialexpression/apply. This is my super low tech way. I'm trying to get better with colored markers and shit. I have friends that are good artists, and I'm a musician, not an artist. So go to socialexpression.net/apply. I think I'll put the link here in the replay, or make my assistant do that. So I'm offering up 5 this month. You got to fill it out in detail. You got to put some time into it. And it doesn't mean I'm going to accept you. Sorry. I just can't take everyone. And you have to really want it. So, and there are other factors to it as well. I look at a lot of different things. I'm not going to go into all those, but you can apply for that session. So what else do we have here? Yeah, that's what I have topically for this workshop. I think in future ones, I want to be more, I'm going to try to do some more focused topics. I think that would be a fun thing to do. And if let's see what some more questions are here. I want to see. Nishant is getting all the love here. I haven't heard. I know there's some others of you on here that I haven't heard from. Now is your chance to ask your questions, or forever hold your peace for this workshop. Disconnection. Nishant's asking, is the price to not being authentic? Maybe being authentic won't bring connection sometimes, but without authenticity, there's none. I mean, yeah, I think it's not worth being just think of the cost in your life in terms of your life. Still, it's freaking scary sometimes to show your real self to women. I mean, well, why is that, Nishant? Why is it scary? What can she possibly do to you? And what's different about beautiful women than, or women? Because I don't know if it's beautiful women, super attractive women, women in general, cute women. There's so much variation because there is no standard. There's this silly standard that super skinny scooper models are the hottest women. I haven't found that. Women that I've been with, I'm not the most attracted to the really skinny women. I'm not. So that can mean a lot of different things. It's what you're attracted to that matters. What you think is beautiful. Self-judgment, I guess. So judgment of yourself, or, yeah, you're afraid of judgment, which, that's human. I get afraid of it too, but it's only my own thought, right? Because it's their judgment coming in and hitting off my thought. So if I don't have any concern around that, it can't hurt me. Psychologically, it can't hurt me. So yeah, I get it, man. I'm with you. Nobody likes to be judged or laughed at and all that. And again, if we love ourselves and don't give a crap, don't give an F, then it's not such a big deal. Brian says, last thing, I find myself kind of obsessing over the length of an interaction. I always feel like it has to go way along hello. Yeah, and it doesn't. You should probably go around just saying hello for a long time to show yourself that it doesn't matter. And then go, hi, how are you? How's everything? Just those two things. Now, you don't have to, I don't want you to make it too mechanical to where you have to cut off everything, right? So that, I don't want it to be too robotic. Maybe at first it's good, Brian, to go around and say, hey, to practice saying hello, what's up, and just doing that. But if it goes more than that, like there was a couple people on the street today as I was walking, and it was really, it's interesting. It's this kind of cool hip art district, industrial area. I've noticed the street gets crowded. And there was like a couple walking across, and I just looked over and I said, hey, this is pretty busy here. This is crazy. And this is the busiest I've seen it. We talked about it. It was light, but it was like enjoyable conversation. And I just kicked it off by mentioning what it was and talking about my experience with it. And, oh, you guys, and they mentioned they're from the neighborhood, and we kind of went separate ways. And I had to go home and eat and do some other stuff, get ready for this. But it was very, just threw it out there. So just throw it out there. Brian, I don't really know how or when to leave an interaction. It doesn't matter. That's a limiting belief, Brian. I don't know that. Yes, you do. You think you don't. And you just, well, I don't know how, and that's the world you get. Just leave it or don't. Like, you have to play an experiment, and there is no right time to stay or leave. There is no right time to stay or leave. John says, I have not very much luck meeting quality women. Either they flake out on me or stand me up. The reason I'm single is that I did not settle. This makes it harder to meet women. Okay, good. I'm glad you didn't settle. And there's something you're doing that is making them flake or stand you up in your behavior, which stems from your mindset, right? So this only makes it harder to meet women. Yeah, and so if you believe that, you'll get more of that. It's only harder to meet women. It's hard. Everything becomes hard, and not hard in a good way. So you got to work on those beliefs. You got to work on changing those into, it's easier to meet women than I think. Yeah, it's hard only when I think it is. You got to start shifting the thoughts like that. and realize you're self-generating this reality. And then there are a lot of other subtleties and stuff going on. Believe me, I know, I've done it too. So that's stuff you got to work on, John. And I have not had very much luck meeting quality women. Okay. So start making your luck. Start telling yourself that you will have luck, that you do have luck, that you're creating your luck. Say, I'm creating my luck with women. I create it. You have to take the power back. Otherwise, you're a victim of your thinking, of what appear to be your circumstances, which are just reflected out by what we think and how we act. That's what creates our circumstances and what we have around us in our lives, okay? Yeah, of course, we were born and we didn't have control over that necessarily. But for so much in our life that we say we don't, that we've given our power away, that comes through a story. That comes through a mindset. So you got to start shifting on that. So again, offering up the 5 of these this month, and you guys are the first to hear about it live on the webinar. So go ahead and apply for it. I see some other people joining at the end. You can watch the replay, and for replay people too, for as long as this is up and or those sessions are available, you can still apply. So don't let it hold you back from applying. If it's something you really want to try and grab, you're going to click, you're going to select the time, and then the application is going to pop out. And like a lot of people that have applied, if you do not fill out the application as it says when it pops up, you will not, well, you definitely don't have a chance to get it and the session. So you got to fill it out. You got to put time into it. You have to show me that you actually want this. And there still isn't a guarantee because there are a lot of other factors into it. Sorry, just being honest. But I want to pick the best of those 5, the people that really want it, the people that are really dedicated, the people that are really wanting to move forward and get a lot out of the session. That's just how it goes, because otherwise both of our times are wasted, right? And it's a complimentary thing. It's not something I have to do, but I want to do, and I do from time to time. And it's got to be for the right people. So Bill asks, how much of charm is really confidence? Well, I mean, there could be some kind of charming people that, you know, Bill, can be kind of, they can really play that self-deprecating thing and seem underconfident, be quite charming. Can it go hand in hand? Absolutely. And I know you, Bill, you definitely have a sense of humor, which is very charming about you. And so I think confidence and charm can go hand in hand. It can look a lot of different ways, but you know, charm and charisma is an interesting thing. People say I'm charming and charismatic. Do I always feel that way? Hell no. I think working on being more expressive is important in whatever way you can. When I recommend taking improv class and acting class to clients and people in general, to whoever, I think it is a good thing. But we don't have to do those kind of classes, especially if we work on our thinking and work on our conversations day to day to day. This is a long game, guys. There is no quick fix for anything that's worth anything in life. I'm not saying it couldn't happen quickly, depending on what you practice and what information you have and what kind of support you're allowing yourself or how you're working on it from day to day. But it's a long game. You got to be in it to win it for the long game. The NFL quarterback, the football quarterback, didn't become a quarterback looking for a quick fix, right? The musician, the president, whoever. You got to put this in your long-term vision. And by you guys showing up, I know that you are, but remember that. I'm not saying that you're not, okay? But remember that. It's important. If it's important to you to put it in the forefront, to practice it, to work on it, to come to these things, to invest in the books and courses and stuff, if you can, or do everything that you can to help yourself. You know, if you don't have the money, then keep watching my videos and everything you can find. But I always recommend, I know for me, investing where I could help move me forward and shortcut things and get the support from somebody that was an expert and a mentor. And that may or may not be me. I'm not saying it has to be me. It could be a course. I've had people join the social expression list and I love seeing the unsubscribes that say, hey, I used your stuff and it helped me and I'm good. And so I'm leaving. Now that's a rare case, but that is possible. Okay. And some people need more help than others. I get people getting on the phone and saying, I need you there. And other people, we get on the phone and say, hey, I think I'm good. Although that's rarer than it is more. But the point is, make this important. Keep working on it. Keep in the long game, not the short game, right? It's not the individual games. It's the season. You play for the season and multiple seasons. I'm using the football analogy here. Career. Think of it as a career. Keep going on it and work on that self-love, guys. That's the thing. Go get the book. Love yourself like your life depends on it. Do the loving kindness meditation. If there was one thing to take away and do on this webinar, it would be that. I would recommend that over pushing yourself to start conversations. I'm not saying don't do that, but work on that inner peace. A lot of it. Okay. So that's it. We're complete. I'm gonna wrap this thing up now. If you're watching the replay, you can leave comments below because I think it's going to be on YouTube is where the replay is going to be showing up. And we'll have to upload it there. And yeah, if you want to apply for the Confidence Breakthrough, you can do that. It was a pleasure being here in the interactive thing with you guys here. And until next time, we're complete. Bye-bye.